I really appreciate everybody joining us for our very first mastermind of 2025. We are so excited to be here, especially because of our guest. But we'll get to that in just a moment. Colby was going to give us just a little bit about our stats, what we've done so far, and what we're hoping to continue to do. So, Cole, you want to jump on in there?
Yes, so we are happy and excited to say that in 2024 we hosted, I think it was 27 masterminds on Zoom with over 1,900 real estate professionals and beyond, joining us on these calls. It was just a really enriching year for us to, be hosting that and creating that community and, just collaborating with all of our guests. Gina actually was one of our earliest guests of 2024, right when we launched this series. So we're very glad to have her back. And it just felt very appropriate to have her kick off the year with us. She's transformational coach and speaker, clinical hypnotist, and a published author and has been working in this, mental real estate coach space, very trauma sensitive. I know you're a grief specialist as well, which is, oddly appropriate, I think, for what people are going through in my neck of the woods anyway right now. And I'm just excited to talk about this topic with you. You and I had sort of brainstormed a month back and we just were spitballing and we were like talking about being authentic and building relationships and talking about cultivating awe in the business that you're doing and how does that actually transform into action. And we were like, wait, there's 3 A's. We love alliteration. Let's do that. So that's kind of how this was born. I know that Eva and Gina have also spent a lot of time over the past couple days prepping to make this a great call. So I'll hand over the mic to them and, we can just dive in.
Oh, thank you. We appreciate that. And I'm going to get to Gina in just a moment because Gina actually is one of my very uh, favorite people. But more importantly than that, one of my dearest friends. We have really had the opportunity over some years to develop really deep, meaningful relationship. And we think that, that's what it's all about, right? And that's a lot about what we want to talk here today on. We put out authenticity and awe, and, we've massaged it a little to inspired action because we just love that. And Gina and I were on a call today. We spent over an hour just chatting. And so it's not always this, twice a month conversation. It's not always the planned, although these have a lot of value. And we're happy to have Gina here to do that here today. But sometimes or a lot of times it's the one-on-one, really, really important stuff. So with that, I'm going to let Gina introduce herself. And then we do have a couple of slides that we'll throw in here, but mostly this is going to be conversational. We really encourage everybody here to ask a question in the chat or just pop on in anytime. If you're not talking, listening, whatever, join on in anytime you want. Gina, the floor is yours, my good friend.
Thank you. I already felt like crying 3 times
Mhm.
since we got this started. And I really, if you know anything about me, you know that I am all about emotions and about authentic relationships. And so thank you for having me on today on this particular event call. And I'm super excited because it is a new year, a fresh start, turn the page. Let's activate better energy, more intuitiveness, more intention. Let's really look at what didn't work last year or any previous year for us, what needs to be changed, what needs to be adopted. I don't know about you, but letting go for me has become a mantra. I've had to let go of a lot of things in my life, and things that were very sacred to me, and ideas and concepts as well, and my belief in everything, just everything has changed. Uh-oh.
Yeah, no, so I just wanted to make sure that we had our couple of slides show up while you're chatting, because I don't think you gave yourself a good enough introduction. I will
Typed
say,
that one, didn't I?
I'm going to jump in here because you didn't, all right? And I'm just going to say that Gina is an amazing coach. She dabbles in, and I shouldn't say dabbles, that's not the right word. She is experienced in a lot of different ways of coaching. Hypnotism is something that she is familiar with. And she works with healing. She works a lot with grief, as Colby had mentioned. And she's been doing this for the better part of 10 years, I would think, since I've known her, but probably for most of her life, because this is something that kind of comes from her heart entirely.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Actually, this
so
has been a 65-year long endeavor. 65 years. So, and with epigenetics, we know it was probably longer than that this was in the build, right? But I am a clinical hypnotist. I am a Reiki master. I've also been a serial entrepreneur since the day that I think since the day I was born into that life, and feel passionately about being a business owner, being an entrepreneur, serving our communities at the highest capacity that we possibly can. And I've also lost several very important people in my life in the last few years, very close to one another. And it's been an interesting reckoning for me in several areas, but one of them is that loss, deep loss, creates a chasm that wants to be filled. And we get to choose how we respond to everything, including death and loss. And there, you can burn everything down, literally and figuratively. Everything can burn down, but we have the opportunity to rebuild. And what we rebuild may not look like what existed before. It may not look like that, but it might be more intentional. It might be more fruitful. It might be very demanding, but it could be the best thing that could have happened for your conscious development. It sucks to lose things that are important to us, right? So these are the areas that I've worked with. Trauma, healing from trauma experiences. And I've had my own many traumatic experiences, and I've worked with people in a number of different ways. My modalities that I focus on today are energy healing, somatic healing, and personal empowerment and development. And I really want to just put emphasis on the fact that we are here to not just function as people going through rote actions every day and following all the rules. We are here to make a difference. We are here to leave a mark on the world, a positive mark on the world, on humanity. We are here to evolve, and we are here to help other people evolve. So when we started talking about business development for the new year, I came into this really, excited about it. But at the same time, life is happening, right? Life is always happening in the back room. And so it's even more important for us to be intentional about living our life and working in our professional spaces. We're going to talk about a lot of different things today. I want this to be more like a conversation that between people who actually care about their businesses and their audiences, their clients, their customers, their families, the people that they love. This is all integrally important to every aspect of life. But when you're in the real estate industry, it's even more important, because this is more about, it's more about emotion than it is transaction. Transaction is the latter half of that resolution, right? Because you're solving problems for people. But we're going to talk about a lot of things. And I hope you're open to this. I'm going to count on it. And I hope that you have something that you want to add to this conversation, because each and every one of us are influencers. Every single day we go out into the world. And even before then, we influence our own mind. So as you know, as stated earlier, I am a clinical hypnotist. I work with the power of the mind, the subconscious mind, the conscious mind. And I say it in that order because it's predominantly the subconscious mind that rules all of our thoughts and decisions. Right? So subconscious mind, conscious mind, and then the mind below thinking, and then the autonomic mind, which is responsible for all of the things that function in your body with or without your consent.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to say that happy 2025, first of all. I'm a little bit late to the party also because, and maybe some of you might be, because I took a holiday and went off and traveled and went to go visit some of my children. And I was in Hawaii and enjoyed every minute of it. I really didn't take photos. I didn't really engage on social media much and had people rebuke that for some reason. And I'm like, you know what? I'm intentional about my life today. If I don't take the time, meaning you don't take the time to actually let down and let go, then we're operating on a nervous system that is hypervigilant all the time. Social media plays into that. We get sick, our resistance gets low. We aren't thinking at our highest level with executive function that we want to, right? So it's important to not just follow the algorithms dictated by whomever, but to also follow your own innate algorithm. You know what's best for you. Every one of you knows what's best for you. It's our job to figure that out, and then it's our job to share that with the world. How are we going to interact with people? The people we meet every single day, anytime we leave our home or talk on the phone, we are influencers. We are influencing and we are leading somebody to a conclusion. And sometimes that happens to be us too, as a byproduct of a conversation, right? So,
Gina, I just want to jump in here for a second because we were talking about this earlier, and maybe this is true for people here. I just want to kind of canvas the group. I think I personally am aware of, what authenticity looks like and how I would like it to look in my personal life. And maybe less so with awe, but also in my personal life, a little bit more familiar with that. But how does it relate to real estate? Like, what does that mean? How are we authentic in our real estate business? How does it end up translating into better business, more peace, all of the things we talked about earlier? So can you share, we had a pretty decent conversation around, authenticity, what it means and how it kind of moves into our business space.
sure. Okay, so when I work with people, and I work largely with within the real estate community as a support for them, but as a coach and in my leadership role
Choosing
as
the Jenna Cardell team. This is Kathy.
Bobby's got it.
yeah. So authenticity comes in to real estate when you take a look at yourself, and for example, you're the first and foremost person that's going to listen to you. Right. So if we know what we need to do, and in real estate, you get a lot of training, extensive training, and it's a protocol for, you have so much access to training, to leadership training, to action, to mindset training even. But if we're not actually taking our values, our true values, and looking at ourselves authentically, we are not going to be connecting with people in an authentic way. And I see it all the time in in working with people and their mindset, or the subconscious mind versus the conscious mind. If we know what we're supposed to be doing, and we do, and we're not doing it, then something's out of alignment. What is that? If you can't define what that is, we're going to have a problem. So in order to meet people where they are, you have to first know what you're about, because those people are going to be drawn to us. The people that we are going to be in league with are going to be drawn to us. That's an energetic component, right? Part of the connection. And so that at the very forefront of everything we do, we have to be able to identify what is it about me that is going to allow me to be the most genuine, my most genuine self, my most transparent self. Because when you're transparent about who you are, when you know who you are, you have no shame in recognizing that that's a value system. That is a value system to you. People appreciate you having the ownership, the ownness of being who you really are. You're not defined by somebody else's rules when you're walking in your own path. And if you're out of alignment with that, you're not going to show up well. It's going to show. I read people for a living. When they tell me something, I can spot it without them saying a word. I'm a reader. So other people can do that too. Maybe they're just not aware of that. Maybe you're not aware of that, but you should be. You need to be. You need to be able to read people, but you need to be able to own your own stuff first. So take it forward, like reaching out to talk to people. A lot of people have problems with lead gen. If you can't reach out and just talk to people, you're going to have a stopgap, a huge one.
Yeah, we talked about that, about this right here, this
Yes.
call. Gina and I can be on a phone call for hours and we just bounce back and forth. The ideas never, dry up. We're not worried about. So what is it here that makes that different? And that is where the authenticity comes in, right? Because I'm worried. I mean, I'm not even consciously worried that people are thinking something. It's just it doesn't flow sometimes when, like it does when we're just one-on-one.
It
So
doesn't flow because we're guarded,
right,
Ava. When we
right.
go into social scenarios, and especially particularly leadership roles, professional roles, we become subjugated to our own sense of insecurity and our own self-judgment. When nobody's really thinking about that, we don't need anybody else to criticize us. We're so good at criticizing ourselves.
That's true.
We're top notch at that. And so, no, people care. People care about what you care about. Do you
Yeah.
care about their well-being?
If
That's what
you
people,
really care about it. If you're making
you
believe,
don't. Yep.
then it's a different story. But if you truly care, people can tell.
Yes,
And clients can tell
they
when you're
can.
being authentic like that.
They can. And people don't care how you do it. They just care that you can do it. And what it is can you help them? You know,
Absolutely.
I'll give you a personal example here. Recently I paid a pretty hefty tax bill. and it made me, like, I was shocked at first. And then I'm settling down, and I'm like, okay, now I can respond to this instead of react to this, right? So my first thought is, who, like, who can help me with managing all of this in the future, right? And so I get on the phone. Who did I get in call? I don't call some random person on the internet. I call my friends. Who do you know? Who do you know and trust? Because don't give me some random reference. I don't want a random reference. I want somebody you trust, you have used in the past. You have to know them for me to value your opinion about them, right? I don't want just anybody. That's like finding a date, for God's sake. It's like, I don't just want anybody, you know? Um, and so it's very critical. It sounds so, we have to go back to the underlying tenets of basics when it comes to communication skills, when it comes to relatability, when it comes to leadership. If you haven't walked the talk, how are you going to lead?
Yeah.
That's another perfect example. Has anybody had a leader who in their life, in their business life, who just wasn't it? They weren't mastering that skill. You knew they hadn't. They were a novice. And if they're projecting that they're experienced, you know that. You recognize it. It doesn't build confidence. And so then everybody feels weakened by that. We have to know who we can trust. Our clients want to know who they can trust. And it's about being authentic. It's not like having some canned line to throw at somebody.
The other thing, though, Gina, that we talked about is how do you know? What is it that is the trigger so that you yourself know that you're being authentic? And one of the things that we always discover is when we leave our conversation, we are always energized. We are always coming up with amazing ideas. We are ready to conquer the world after the conversation. And that is because that conversation was an authentic conversation.
Absolutely, Eva, it's so true. And, I was on the phone last night. I don't know if any of you know Lori Ballin. She's with KW. She's been with KW for decades. She was a dear friend of my husband, my late husband, Dave Jenks. Lori and I talk periodically. When we get on the phone, we might say, we kind of joke about it now. Can you talk for a minute or 12? Like, because that really translates to is we're going to be on the phone for 3 hours. And why are we on the phone for 3 hours? We are on the phone for 3 hours because if we have a problem, we're going to call each other. And it's always, and I don't think she would mind me saying this, it's always emotional. It's some emotional thing that happened. And I need to sort it out in my head. And I've had enough contextual experience talking with her over time that I know I value what she says. She's younger than me. It doesn't matter. She's wise in so many areas that may not be my expertise, but she's wise in areas that I am too. I value her regardless of her age because she's had experience and I trust her. And she knows people that she can refer me to if I have a particular problem, right? And vice versa. It works both ways, right? So we got on the phone last night and we were on the phone for 3 hours and came up with a game plan for me after the call. I was on fire. And this is what we need in our life.
That's when I caught your little wave.
Yes,
Right after that
exactly.
call.
It was like, oh my gosh, I have a plan. So when I said originally at the beginning of this call, I had been late to the party. I'm late to the party, the New Year's Eve party. Like I didn't have resolutions in place. I was still thinking about it. Well, we get caught up in this whole, again, another example of external opinions, external ideologies. We get caught up in that stuff and it derails us. And it takes us off our mental game, right? And so the goal is to be very intentional about this year and what you want to happen in your life. Very intentional. And above all else, I want to be genuine. I want to be authentic. I want to be transparent as much as I can be in every conversation. And you would be shocked if you realize some of the things that I just drop on somebody's wherewithal when I have a random conversation with people. But what it does instantly drops their guard because now they see immediately upon meeting that I'm a real person. I'm not
Yes, you
Gina,
are.
the national speaker, or Gina, the published author, or Gina, the clinical hypnotist. I am a real person just like you. It's endearing to people. People want to know they're not the only one. And this is another thing. People are afraid to ask questions a lot of times. They don't want to seem like they're lacking. They don't want to seem like they're lacking, like they're missing out, like some body of information they don't know and everybody else on the planet knows it except them, right? We talk about that with technology sometimes, right? So people want to know they're not alone. If you have a home buyer, think about all the people who are first-time home buyers or who want to be right now. They desperately want to be, and they're confused. Some people don't know that they want to be. They're confused between, not being able to afford rent, not being able, and pouring the money out anyway, right? So it's up to us to inform people, but to do it in a way that is not condescending, that you envelop them. And I'm just going to call it like I see it, with love and compassion. When you do that, when you extend someone the courtesy of saying, hey, you know what? I don't know everything, but here's what I have learned, and I can help you with these ideas if you want some external support, right? You can find people like that everywhere to talk to, anywhere you go. I meet people everywhere I go. I've had people offer me extended stays in remote parts of the world from meeting them in a grocery store. And I'm going to tell you that happens all the time. It's just interesting to me that we say we have to follow these rules of engagement when that's so limiting. It is very limiting. It takes our power away. And in that disempowerment of the self, we are also disempowering people who need our help, right? That's the way to have impact in the world. It's one person, one moment at a time, one conversation at a time. And you and I got to know each other. In the beginning, we didn't know each other at all. It was based on a conversation between my husband and myself, right? And then I saw you on some other platforms and I asked, who's that person? Who's Eva? Tell me about Eva. Our work, our business comes from contacts that we already have. They're pre-existing
Yes,
contacts, and
absolutely.
they're contacts, right? So if we are not reestablishing relationships from the past, then we are also missing a mark,
Yep.
because we should be deepening those relationships, which is what you and I have done. If I said to you, Eva, I'm in trouble, I need your help, even though you live out of state, I have no doubt you would come and I would do the same thing. It is that level of knowing. It makes me want to cry. It's like the people that have helped me the most have been the ones who really didn't even maybe do something for me, but they said, I would do this. And I know they meant it.
And
I
I think, Gina, if I can just say, and I want to say that is so true for me as well. I couldn't agree more. I know I could rely on you in a moment's notice and vice versa. And I think we're talking really high level friendship here.
Mhm.
However, I think it translates into our business. I think that people know if you are real. People know if they can trust you.
They
Maybe
do.
it takes a little bit of time, but if you are consistently something, people start to trust it. It's
We
not
know
something that
somebody.
comes and goes.
No, it's not. We know somebody within the first, I think it's 3 seconds of meeting them. We can sense a lot. What happens is that we sense all kinds of things, and then we start removing, like obliterating the red flags sometimes, right? So
Exactly.
we can have this effect in one way or another, right? That's the law of opposites, right? And so yes, absolutely, Eva. It's deepening the relationships so that you know who, like, would you recommend me to somebody, Eva?
All day
After,
long.
like,
No,
would
and
that,
I mean that. I'm not
right?
just saying it because you're here on this call. I trust you, and you've shown up for me so many times in the same fashion that I know that's not going to change. And I think, to kind of, I want to take this authenticity thing and wrap it into our conversation around awe, because here we are, we're all realtors and we all have relationships. I mean, some of us are more transactional based, and I have some of my colleagues who they don't build their databases. They just, they cold call, and that's how they do their business. But for the most part, realtors are relationship based and trust building people. And so when you do that, you become a leader in this field. And that's, I think our sign, wherever it is, I can't see the screen, but it says authenticity, when it shows up consistently, turns, it's a leadership role, and other people trust it, and it grows.
And I'm going to say this too, Eva, you pointed something out a minute ago that's really important. It does define our business. I tell people all the time, your business is emotional. When it comes to money, your revenue stream, it's emotional, just like it is to your clients, your future customers, your people. Business is an emotional experience. Take away the business and see how it feels. Yeah. Lose your money and see how it feels. Get taken advantage of and hijacked. It will feel emotional. All of this is emotionally based. Business is emotional. It is not the transaction, as I said early in the call, is really a way to culminate that level of trust and responsibility in business, right? So that's where it meets the road and begins to finalize. But there's no finality to this. I want to say this: your business will continue in one way or another, with or without that emotional connection to these people. I created this program, this acronym called Authentic Relationship Marketing. I'm so passionate about it because I believe that when we do business with people, they're going to walk away gratified 1,000% or have more questions, or they're going to be disappointed. And so we have a choice in all of that interaction, right? So when you say awe, do we have that?
Yeah, we do. And I want to add, Colby, if you could just change it to the next slide. I want to say you've mentioned that this business is emotional, and I agree with you 100%. How is it that we take that emotion, and maybe it's adding this ingredient of awe, and make it into action, or inspired action, as I like to say mostly. So is that the ingredient? How do we take the emotion and turn it into real action?
No, we serve our people at not a 5-star level, but a 10-star level. That's number one. Right. Our service has to be impeccable. And yes, there's things that come up, but outside of that, it has to be exceptional. It has to be extraordinary. We were talking about.
We have feedback.
Let me mute whoever that was. Better.
We were talking about all of this, these slides that you're seeing, everybody. We were talking about this, what, 10 minutes before in a 10-minute period of the prep, the earlier conversation that we had for an hour, we talked about this in the last, I don't know, 6 minutes, maybe. So what I'm saying is you put things together, and this is why it's so important to have like-minded people that you surround yourself with. And when I say like-minded, I mean like-minded in the sense that they're progressive. They are interested in evolution. But like your progress, their progress, it's a team effort, and everybody's in it together. They're really devoted to this process, right? You see when somebody else is failing or they're slipping or whatever, and you have a conversation with them. So this applies to your team. It's like raising a family. I had 5 children by the time I was 24. It took an extraordinary amount of time and energy and thought for me to raise those children to fruition, to say, okay, now you're adult. Thank God everybody survived at that point. And, but it was miraculous, like over and over and over again, because I didn't know what I was doing in the beginning at all. And I'm sure that I made plenty of mistakes, but you know what I say when people, we focus on our mistakes or our missteps or whatever. And I'm like, let's look beyond that right now, change the script, because a baby learns how to walk by falling thousands of times and never says, I think I'm not going to walk anymore. Right? So having passion for what you do is how awe shows up. You are in awe of the fact that you get to do this. How are you going to do it to the highest level, inspiring yourself and other people? You know, you have to admire the process in order to get to that space of awe. It's, you know, the losses that I faced in my life that in the last few years, I mentioned in the last few years, it's been my father died, my husband died last year, a year and a half now, my son died. And this year my brother died and my mom had a stroke at the same time. If I had looked at this loss after loss after loss, that was epic for me. I thought losing my husband was hard. Losing my son was incredibly difficult. Incredibly difficult, and it still is. But if I had looked at all of this and said, I am defeated, I'd be done. I wouldn't be doing any business. I would be disengaged entirely because one bad thought leads to another. We can't spend today wasting time today ruminating about a painful past. It's a good idea to look back and see where, thank you for everyone who's offering condolences. I appreciate your thoughts and your feelings. Thank you so much. I can't spend too much time on thinking about all the horrible things that have happened in my life. I have to choose to look at those experiences and say, what have I learned? How am I going to make that applicable in my life? And how am I going to make that applicable in the lives of my communities? Because again, you're an influencer every day. So that leadership role, that assuming that leadership role means it's simply saying, I am a natural leader because I have a mind. I can change my mind at any time. Now, I'm not saying that it's not important to take time down, because I do. I learned a lot from that first experience of loss. I took time every time this happened to really process my feelings, to feel it, first of all, and then to process it. And then in every step of the way, I wrote, because I needed to mark these occasions somehow when it seemed like, as I looked out, you know, the 18th floor of the building and saw traffic moving and people walking like it was an ordinary day after my husband had just died the night before. And I remember thinking, oh my God, the rest of the world just does keep going on. And I get to make a choice, even though I didn't feel like going on at times, to keep going on anyway, to keep getting up and doing the things that I needed to do in small measures. That meant getting up out of the bed. It meant making the bed. It meant washing my face, taking a shower, putting clothes on, not my jammies. It meant making myself coffee and breakfast, even though I didn't feel like eating, even though I didn't feel like living. I made myself do these things as a contract with myself. There's a whole story behind that, because there was an eerie out-of-body experience I had that really was a life changer for me. It was a mindset changer. It made me realize that awe shows up every day. And we can step into that state of awe, and we can adopt that state of awe, and we can share and extend that state of awe in everything we do, in our personal lives, and our personal lives are linked to our business lives. Without our business life, now things start to really change, right? And most of us need to keep living and need to keep going on. So it does inspire us to take action every single day towards something, towards something. What's that going to be? What does it need to be for you?
If I may, I want to say a couple of things. First of all, of course, my heart always goes out to you on a lot of the things you've talked about. I want to say though that I do think that people, when when you share your experiences, it can make other people inspired because it reminds people that everybody has challenges and pain and hurt, and I'm not normal because I'm experiencing this. It's not so much about why me. It becomes, I've got this, and look how, Gina is managing this, and I can do that too. So I do think that some of the pain that you share is, such a gift for other people. And whether it be, very serious things like you're talking about, or if it's just, the challenges of day to day that we all go through. If you're in a group of people and they're there to support you, you're going to be able to be reminded, here's this awe, right? Here it is. And it's so amazing to be here, to be able to, make whatever the best of what I can out of this and share with everybody. And that, I think, is what you do. I think very much so that's what you're talking about here. And just a final thought on that is, some people, you said if you don't turn it into activity, if you're not working and you're not making money, there's a problem, right? But it's just so much of a problem if you're going through the motions and you are making the money, but you're not really enjoying what you're doing.
Exactly.
So if you can combine authenticity and awe and actually take action and enjoy and be revived in your work environment, I think that's important. People
Yeah.
are, I'm energized by my work environment. When I'm successful at work, that's important to me. I'm proud of that.
And Eva, we all get, I love what you said. And to add to that, we all get demotivated sometimes. I mean, there are down days, and I'm a fan of taking a day. Take a day. If you need a day, take a day. Like we can't operate at this breakneck speed all the time and expect there's going to be no consequence to that, right? Too. So there's that.
True.
And I have a friend who is a colleague and a friend, and he's a very dear person. I just love this person, and he's building a project right now. He's actually expended most of his monies into this development of this project. He's the GC and he's the actual worker. I mean, he's doing the physical labor of this now. And I watched him for months building this out, and he's working 12-hour days and then going to work helping people with their emotional stuff too, because this is a healing center of sorts. This guy was he had a construction company before that for about 18 years, I believe. And so he's used to hard work. And I have watched this guy, this friend of mine, build this in spite of having no electricity in the building, no water. He's actually building it out. And he is on like this awe-inspired action campaign. Like he's still excited every time he talks about it. I've only heard him one day where I said to you, I know that your voice sounds different right now. And I could tell that he was really feeling it, like the frustration, just the weight of everything. And yet he wasn't quitting. There was no way quitting was ever entering his mind. And I just respect that so much about him. I talk with him almost every day. And I support him wholeheartedly. I want his business to be a success as much as I want my own to be a success, right? I'm in awe of his passion, his authenticity. He's like so in league with what he's building that there is no failure in that. You guys understand that, right? There's no failure if you are passionate about something and you take inspired action every day. And sometimes you need to get outside encouragement. I like to think that's what I am for him. Outside encouragement is important. We don't need approval. We don't need permission. We just, well, sometimes we do need permission. Sometimes we need permission from somebody externally to say, I know this is freaking hard. I know it is. I see it. I feel it. But it's kind of like me talking about death again. Do I want to talk about my people dying on a call again? Like every time I go in a call or every time I'm speaking to an audience, I have that thought. And then my next thought is yes, because it might inspire somebody. Maybe somebody needs to hear that specific thing. And we're all so busy comparing ourselves. Well, we might as well make a comparison to something that's illuminating, inspiring in a way that makes us feel connected, because there are plenty of people that have lost a lot of things and people and dreams, right? This is absolutely all connected to your business. All of it. It's not the standard training that any of you would get in the field, in the industry of real estate necessarily, but it is an important element. Emotions, inspiring yourself so you can inspire other people, taking action based on that inspiration. And Eva, thank you so much. You and Colby inspire me all the time. Sometimes we need to look at somebody else and really it's not necessarily a comparison, because I think that we need to compare ourselves to ourselves yesterday. I need to make a comparison today to myself yesterday, for example. You get that, guys?
Yeah.
Like,
the only person you should compare yourself against is the person you were yesterday, right?
right. And maybe even this morning.
Yeah.
What was I doing this morning, right? But that wasn't the case for me today, but certainly it can be. Like even this year, I was like, well, everybody's got all their plans made for the new year, and here I am trailing along. But I don't worry about things like that anymore, because I've learned that there are important things to be concerned about. And there are things that just simply don't matter. They don't matter. Let's focus on the things that do matter.
What's mattering for me right here and right now, Gina, is I think that this is exactly what the topic is about. This is about being authentic. This is about being in awe. And this is about taking inspired action. And it's about taking it with everybody on this call. I know everybody's been quiet. And if anybody wants to jump in here, there's still an opportunity. But the fact that you're here, the fact that we're able to share this, maybe makes us one step closer to being less afraid to do it again or to do it in a different way. And maybe it has that effect on everybody here. Maybe somebody here was worrying about that closing that might not happen today. And then you put life in perspective and you go, okay, so it'll probably close tomorrow. But that's what I feel here. And so I want to be totally authentic and thank everyone for being here. And like I said, I know everybody's quiet, but please feel free to jump in.
A lot of times, Eva, I think that we look at something that breaks down. There's a law of entropy, the laws of entropy and extropy. Everything, before everything can be pulled back together, it has to fall apart, right? And so we look at things falling apart as, or not happening, something didn't happen that we were counting on as the worst thing. When really, in reality, it often is a redirection. It can be a redirection, certainly, right? And we forget to see that. I see, and I know we all do see a lot of positivity, blah, 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 everything's be positive all the time. Well, I think that's a freaking ridiculous concept. You cannot be positive all the time. You have emotions. Shitty things are, oh, I said shitty online. Bad
We'll
things are,
bleep it out.
thank you. Bad things are going to happen and hard things are going to happen. That's life. Hard things happen all the time to people. Hard things are happening right now in our world. You know, I know that, you know, if you think about people losing their homes and their possessions and their lifestyle, everything right now, and like one part of the country, like what's happening right now, it's heartbreaking. You know, we can't help but feel that. We feel that collective energy and have compassion for people, you know. And then there's idiots out there making a spectacle of why this happened, blah, 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 blah. It's like, okay, we know those things are at play. We know they're always at play. Always. That's our world. But can you not just have compassion? Can you not just have compassion that this is happening right now and that people are being impacted every single day, every minute of the day right now? I think that we forget sometimes that one thing happening leads to another, always, 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 always. And we get to decide what we are to do with that, just like when someone says something or does something or doesn't do something, we get to decide how we're going to respond to that. Let's take some time to think about the awe of that. I really believe that God blessed us with a mind to be able to have discernment, to help us all evolve. And, you know, somebody else's opinion isn't always going to be your opinion. Okay. Well, welcome to the world of reality, right? But we certainly have a choice.
I
Yeah.
just wanted to chime in on something there that is resonating with me. I think that, you know, a lot of times people might say something like everything happens for a reason, and something that I've actually something that's grown to resonate with me more than that is it's not that everything happens for a reason, it's that we get to create meaning out of everything that happens. And so for me right now in LA, like I could look around and be sad, and I am, and those emotions come up for me in this call. But I'm actually more like in awe of all the helpers, you know? Um, and it does make me reflect on how I want to show up authentically in the real estate space in this market that is, you know, real estate is being ravaged, people's lives, of course, and has been loss of life. But it's kind of going to be an interesting space here, and we get to be a part of rebuilding that. So anyway, I'm having trouble talking, so.
Thank you, Colby, for sharing your thoughts and your feelings. And I think that I can say that collectively we're all with you. We're all with you, and we feel that energy and that heartbreak and the fear and all of it. There's very big emotions centered around all of this, and it is a trauma experience, right? It is. And we don't have to be necessarily in that physical space to feel that with you. You know, I just see you. Thank you for sharing that, honey. So I want to ask also, I know Eve and I had talked about this earlier about really making this more of a conversation. We would like to know if there's anybody who has any questions or any thoughts you want to share. We would really appreciate it if you would step up and raise your hand right now.